To paraphrase Destiny's Child, can you pay your bills? Can you pay your fraud bills? Can you pay your felony bills? If you did, then maybe Tish James would chill. But I don't think you can, because Trump is clearly not that man. His New York civil fraud loss is proving to be a blow to his much smaller than he wants to admit wallet, owing about $500 million for fraudulently inflating his assets. Now, 1 week before bond is due, Trump is admitting he don't have the cash. In a new filing, Trump's lawyers are claiming, despite Trump's diligent efforts, securing a bond in the full amount is, quote, a practical impossibility, saying they unsuccessfully approached 30 surety companies throughout 4 separate brokers, and that bond companies would not accept hard assets such as real estate as collateral, only cash for cash or cash equivalents, which Trump's team says could require cash reserves nearing $1 billion. Which, if we took Trump's word for it, shouldn't be a problem. I mean, he famously bragged about his net worth during his deposition in this case.
I don't need the money. You probably see the cash. We have a lot of cash. I believe the brand is worth more than all of the properties put together. If I wanted to show you a good statement, I would have added maybe $10 billion or something for the brand. We have a lot of cash. I believe we have substantially in excess of $400 million cash.
The problem is they're asking for dollars, not rubles. Now, the Republican candidate finds himself in a significant financial crunch. The New York Times says Trump is, quote, scrambling to raise cash, calling the financial disparity between the two candidates the, quote, most pressing issue facing the Trump campaign. Trump's myriad of legal fees and losses already is costing him about $600 million. The fraud loss, including interest, the bulk of that bill. If Trump is unable to come up with the money, Attorney General James has said she will seek further action and seize his assets. Joining me now to discuss is Glenn Kirshner, former federal prosecutor and host of the podcast Justice Matters. Glenn, thanks so much for joining me this evening. Look, we can all laugh about the fact that Donald Trump is broke. We can laugh about the fact that his assets aren't as big as he says that they were. We can laugh about the fact that he has defrauded multiple people and now he's finally paying the piper. But here's my immediate concern. Is there any precedent for someone owing this much money in so many different places still being allowed to walk free? I guess there's a part of me that wonders how he can owe so much money for so many heinous crimes and he's still not serving any jail time. Am I crazy for thinking that, or is this just a normal process when you owe over $600 million?
Yeah, well, this is all a civil fraud matter, all of these massive money judgments. So ordinarily, that's not going to result in somebody being incarcerated. Jason, we could certainly talk about his bloodbath comment. And given that he is on pretrial release in 4 felony prosecutions, it seems like he should be revoked on release and detained pending trial because he's a danger to the community, indeed to our democracy. And the law provides that if you pose a danger to even one person in the community when you're in a pretrial release status, you should be revoked and detained pending trial. But that's kind of beside the point. These civil fraud judgments right now, I read this new court filing from Donald Trump. I wouldn't recommend it to anybody unless they enjoy legal fiction. But, it's remarkable that even on page 2, he won't give up the con. He continues to lie. He actually says that, yes, I understand that the court valued Mar-a-Lago at $18 million to $27.6 million. But he said, but it is in fact worth 50 to 100 times that amount. Now, this is a guy who was just found liable for massive civil fraud in this case in which he makes that assertion. This is also a guy whose organization that bears his name, the Trump Organization, was convicted of 17 felony counts for being involved in a 15-year-long scheme to defraud in the first degree. And yet he continues to offer these same lies, which I guess is equal parts astonishing and fully expected. But, when you read through this new court filing, Jason, and he says things like it is a practical impossibility to get a bond to cover this amount. When he says we've gone to 30 surety companies and they will not do bond business with us. He says we went to one of the world's largest insurance companies and they would not issue a bond. What the reader needs to insert after every one of those clauses is Because Donald Trump isn't as rich as he has always fraudulently asserted he is. This is a problem of his own making. And New York Attorney General Letitia James is just waiting in the wings another 10 days. And then I predict she's going to begin seizing his assets to satisfy this money judgment that she won on behalf of the people of New York.
Glenn, I'm curious about this, stepping back and looking at this as a political issue, because what I found particularly compelling about current reporting is the idea that this amount of debt on Donald Trump is also, of course, going to start sapping away from fundraising for the Republican Party. Now that he's basically made the Republican Party an extension of his legal team, they may literally, if they start paying his bills directly and indirectly, his fines and his fraud and his fees, they won't have the money to field campaign staff to run against Joe Biden this fall. Is that something that's being taken into consideration here? Has Trump or any of his legal team thought about the fact that his inability to pay bills may actually result in him being a less powerful candidate running this fall?
That's a great point. You know, this is probably in part why he commandeered the RNC, so they can pay his legal bills, his fines, his disgorgement. And that's going to hurt the Republican Party, Republican candidates. Donald Trump doesn't care if he hurts Democrats, Republicans, independents, or people with no political affiliation. What Trump cares about is Donald Trump. But, you know, he is probably going to drain the RNC dry, and that will inure to the detriment of other Republicans running for office.